Today we have the owner and coach of Bangkok Style Muay Thai team, John Gaglio. Gaglio is a Muay Thai coach and coaches champions amongst the Southern California region. First off, I want to thank you for coming onto the show today, and how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Preston? Thank you for having me.
I'm great, man. So, first question is, how did you get into Muay Thai? Was it something that you loved since you were a kid, or was it something you picked up later as a teenager or young adult?
So when I was super young, dude, I had, and by young, I would say probably like 13, 14. I had a friend of mine's older brother that was doing Muay Thai. And I remember seeing him hit pads and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. You know what I mean? I was like, dang, that's like gnarly. And he wasn't even that good, but I could just tell it was like something different. And it kind of always planted the seed in my brain. And then ever since then, I was like, when I have the money and the time, I'm going to learn Muay Thai. So once I turned 18 and I kind of moved out on my own and I had a good job and I had the free time, I started learning and then found a coach in Orange County. His name was Dave Jansen. He's actually still around and spent probably like the first 2 years, man. I was there for almost 2 years, dude. I'd go like 4 or 5 days a week, like just beast mode, and that's how I got into it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you fight during when you were younger at all? Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, when I was
professionally?
younger, I ended up fighting here once or twice and I didn't like it, right? It was
Hmm.
like, see, in Thailand, everything is like full rules, right? Everything is like elbow fights, everything is like, it's actual Thailand rules. So I got a whole bunch of years under my belt here. And then kind of in my very early 20s, maybe like 20, I was 19 or 20, I was making really good money. And so I would save my money for a lot of years and then or a lot of months of the year and then I would go to Thailand. And a lot of times, dude, there was probably, I think most of the times, dude, I went by myself. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
I would just go over there and, I can't say I fought the Lumpini Championship or like, I won Rajadam Stadium, but I wanted to fight Thais. I wanted to fight under Thai rules.
Hmm.
And so I would just go there and I would stay there, for like a month, month and a half, 2 months, 3 months until I ran out of money. And when I ran out of money, I'd come back and then I'd just kind of start working again. So, um, you know, I just got to see a lot how firsthand how they did it. You know what I mean? And it's just another level.
Hmm. Explain those differences in Thailand versus in the Western world here. In Thailand, it's more like a religion. You can actually say there's kids at 5 or 6 years old, they start training, and by 8 years old, they have some fights even under their belt. So what is the difference between the training over there versus here?
I would say the first of all, the training over there and training compared to here is just the amount of sessions per week. Those guys, if you're living at one of the camps, you're doing 2 sessions a week, 5 or 6 days a week. So if you imagine like a guy here is like training for a fight, he may do 4 or 5 sessions a week, and that's considered a lot, right?
Hmm.
If you think in Thailand, you're doing two a day times 6 days, that's 12. Plus, you're also running at the end of that. So you end up doing like 15 or 18 sessions in a week, right? So the sheer volume of how these guys train is just much, much different. And then further, I would say one of the biggest things is they don't associate fighting and anger. And that really trips Americans out. You got a lot of ego in American gyms, and you see the little Thai kids playing, and it's like one kid punches the other kids, and they kind of laugh and da da da, and it's very lighthearted. Whereas here, it's like, there's a MMA and machismo, there's a lot of like ego involved, right? Where over
Hmm.
there, it's not like that. It's literally like I always tell my guys when I'm teaching, I'm like, stop thinking of this as fighting and just think of it as movement.
Hmm.
When you go play baseball, for example, right? And you walk up and you stand up there to play baseball, are you just naturally angry? No, you're just playing baseball, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is over there. They're just literally playing fighting,
Hmm.
right? And so it makes them much more relaxed and much different. But those are the two biggest differences, the number of sessions and then just the mindset towards doing it.
Yeah. And you were fought as a kid, and now you're a coach. What made the transition from being a fighter to a coach so appealing to you?
So in my 30s, so like in my late 30s, when I kind of stopped going to Thailand, in my mid to late 30s, I'm a snowboarder. I'm from Wrightwood, so I love snowboarding, right? That's my passion. So I kind of smoked both of my knees snowboarding. I had a bilateral ACL rupture,
Oh man.
didn't was like basically walking and not walking for close to 2 years between all the surgeries. And I still feel 90% now, but I kind of realized that um you know, I I can't get in there and fight competitively. You know what I mean? And further, after going in Thailand in my early 20s, I was super young when I went by myself. I'm 185 now, I was 154 pounds. I'd be fighting like 15-year-old kids and 16-year-old kids, and I'd be 19, 20, right? Because
Wow.
they're just that much better. But when you do it there under like that circumstances, and then you come over here and you got fucking dumbasses telling me I got to put elbow pads on and I can't knee you in the face, it feels like I've played real football and now I'm here and everybody's like, "Hey, you want to play flag football?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, it's just not really exciting, dude.
It's
I don't
almost
want."
like an offshoot of
Yeah,
what it
and I don't
really
mean
is.
that like it's not bad here. Obviously, it's hard to just get in a plane and go to Thailand, you know what I mean? But it's just a much different experience you get over there than you get over here. And it just wasn't really appealing to me. A lot of the reason I went over there by myself the first time, the first time I didn't get knocked out, dude, but I got fucked up.
Yeah.
I got fucked up. I didn't get cut, I didn't get hurt, but like I got worked and I was like, wow. And I realized how much better shape they were in. So,
Hmm.
mainly transitioning to coaching was just one, the injury, and then two, um, just I don't like how the game is played over here. It's
Yeah.
kind of pussy over here. It just is. Unfortunately, it just is. That's the nature of the beast.
Hmm. And for a person like myself and a lot of people listening, what does the daily life of a Muay Thai fighter actually look like in Thailand? I actually want to know this.
No, so those guys, like a lot of things, it depends. Like, like the gyms in Bangkok, the kids are very poor. Like, it's just a whole nother level of poverty, right? So, like in
Hmm.
a lot of the gyms in the South, if you're from the North, like Chiang Mai up in the North area, and your family's super poor and they're rice farmers, but your kid has a lot of talent, maybe he's won. A lot of times these kids will quote unquote get like sold to the gym, and that sounds kind of brutal, but they get sold to the gym and then they're literally, rather than become a rice farmer, the gym feeds you and clothes you, and you're kind of like their property. So you literally, like, if you're like, I don't want to train today, they're like, all right, we'll just send you back to your mom and you can go live in your podunk town. So
Hmm.
it's literally usually wake up, train, go to school, come back, train, do homework, go to bed. And especially at the younger age, like that's pretty much what it is. It's just so much different. Like it's very much like, if you think, a very good way to comparison would be like a high school level athlete, like who's like, or say cheerleading or say football or whatever,
Yeah.
where you guys are going to football, going to practice, all these practices, right? It's literally the national sport of the country.
Hmm.
So it's almost exactly like how, collegiate or high school level, high level sports, if you're on the varsity, you're a star player, but it's like that kind of for everybody.
Hmm.
There ain't no option to be like, I don't want to train 2 times a day,
You
coach.
have to. Yeah.
You have to. You're gonna be like, or you're just gonna get your ass beat. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And the training too, it's not overly brutal. It's not a lot of sparring. The sparring's very lighthearted, but the work and the cardio they put in is just, here's us and here's them.
Yeah.
You know,
And what lessons your whole life you've been doing Muay Thai, and what lessons do you think it has brought you just beyond fighting? And how has it shaped you to be the person you've become today?
don't be a fucking pussy.
I love it.
Don't be a fucking pussy. I
Short
mean,
and
it's
sweet.
like, yeah, it's like when you're standing there and across the ring from a dude that's there to mop you up, like, and that dude's way better than you, he's way more skilled than you, and all of that, and you're like, have a genuine fear of getting elbowed in the face and getting cut. Like, not much stresses you out over that after that.
Hmm.
I describe it a lot like, I'm not in the military, or, I wouldn't compare it the same, but, if you're a soldier and you've been in combat, after that,
Nothing
somebody
can phase
yelling at
you.
you at the mall doesn't really stress you out that bad. You know what I mean? So I would say it really like kind of hardens you and it kind of desensitizes you
To a lot of
to
shit.
stress. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I mean by don't be a pussy is like, I always joke with my students, like, or I have a bad day at work, or I have this, or I have that. It's like, bro, and I love fighting. It's like, hey, at least nobody's trying to elbow you in the fucking face. So like, stop being a pussy and crying about it. It could always be worse.
It's
Fighting is a
fun.
very unique thing. When you get in there, and fighters can relate to this, time kind of stops for those 9 or 10 minutes because you have like your life, and then time is going to stop for 10 or 11 minutes. One guy's going to be walking out of here somewhat messed up after, and then time is going to continue. So you're very in the moment, and the lesson is, yeah, just I would say don't be a pussy
Hmm.
and be willing to outwork the other guy is another big thing. That's a big thing I impress on my guys. You got to be out willing to outwork the other guy.
Hmm. Talking about working the other guy, you train a lot of high level fighters. Being more specific, you train some championship fighters in your gym. From your perspective, what do you notice separates those championship level fighters from the rest?
The willingness to suffer, the willingness to suffer. Yeah.
Hmm.
The guys that really, really fucking want it bad. And I'll tell this a lot about kids. I don't train kids. I hate training kids. The Thais train them very young, right? American kids compared to a Thai kid is like a totally different human, right?
Yeah.
But um, I guess the point I would make is some everybody should enjoy Muay Thai, but not everybody is a fighter,
Hmm.
right? And you have to recognize that I can't take a Labrador Retriever and make it a Rottweiler. I can take a fat Rottweiler and make it a really, really mean, crazy Rottweiler, but you can't, Dr. Dre, you can't make a whole housewife, right? You know what I mean? It's the same thing with fighters. If you either got it or you don't. I always tell my students, I can teach you to punch and kick. I can't teach you to want it, right? And that inner like wanting it. And a lot of people want to go and hit pads and da da da, and that's okay, right?
Hmm.
But you got to be willing to get in there and suffer, and you got to be willing to take the abuse. And getting preparing a fighter is like it's a whole another level than hitting pads. So, I look for it in the person, and just yeah, you gotta want it bad. It's gotta come from in here.
Hmm.
I can teach you to punch and kick. I can't teach you
To
want it.
want to
Sometimes,
win.
yeah, a lot of times too with the kids, what I look for, Preston, is self-pity. So like I'm brutalizing this kid, and I'll see one kid that's just like he's just grinding it out. His mind is elsewhere, right? He's just suffering through it. And then I'll see another kid, and it's like this. He's looking, and there's just the self-pity, and I can immediately tell who's the fighter and who's not.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean maybe he won't grow out of that or he won't, but your willingness to want it. Being a fighter comes from really, it does really, I believe it comes from the inside.
It's like what I think Bernard Hopkins said this. It was like it's hard to get up out of bed when you're sleeping in silk sheets. And do you think that's a very true thing that most fighters they need to grow up tough. They need to grow up in a tough environment in order to become like the highest level fighters, or is it something that can be manufactured, or is it just something in them?
I don't think I think the environment can inspire them if they
Hmm.
already have it in them, but I don't think the environment makes you a good fighter. Now, I'll give you a per example. My fighter Majali who just fought. Majali, if you look at him, dude, and I always joke with him, he's like got dreadlocks and tattoos, and you'd think he's like this crazy gangbanger guy, right? That dude's got more degrees than I do, is more educated than me. He's got 2 degrees, right? And is super smart and is getting ready to go to law school, right? He comes from a good family. I love his mom and dad. They're great people. Family still together. He's got brothers and sisters and cousins, and I go eat. So here's a dude who grew up with all the opportunity to go do anything he wants, and he's just choosing to fight because he loves it and it comes from within inside him. And I knew that right when I saw him, right when
Hmm.
I met him and I asked him, so I really believe it comes down, you really, really, really got to want it. Fighting sucks and it hurts, but the benefits are so awesome when you get in there and win in front of all your family. So again, I will believe that like maybe you can like I'm a big thing when I meet someone and I'm like, hey, bro, why do you want to do this? And they're like, I really want to get in shape and like see how I like it. And then maybe if I get good, I want to compete. I'm already like, all right, bro, move on.
Hmm.
I want the kid that walks up to me that like, I want to fight. Put me in there. I want to beat the fuck out of someone. I'm
Hmm.
like, all right, dude, you got it. Because I can teach you to punch and kick. I can't teach you to have that inner drive. I can't take a Labrador that wants to sit there and lap water up and make it a Rottweiler who just naturally wants to rip your face off.
Hmm.
You just can't.
So like when a fighter steps into the ring, you prep them physically as much as possible, but sometimes they deal with that confidence into the ring. Do you feel like it is a part of you to train that mental aspect of the game just as much as a physical aspect of the game?
100%,
Hmm.
100%. And I think a lot of it becomes down to the the abuse. And like I'm brutal to my people, dude. Like when we go train, my class is like a lot of coaches, like they're like, oh, go do your conditioning on your own. No, I make you do it and I watch you do it and I want to see you do it. Right. And I make you suffer. I sit around all day, Preston, thinking about diabolical ass shit I can do to these guys, dude. Yeah, I mean, because I want them to be like, I train them an hour of conditioning and then I'll go put them in, and then we do our pad work when they're dead tired. My coach Dave Jansen always believed that if you brutalize them and you're super relaxed and loose, the technique just comes out better, right?
Hmm.
So um, that hardness of mind and hardness of body, and I don't mean it in like a weird, freaking spiritual kind of sense. I mean it in the I just need to teach you to not be a fucking pussy,
Yeah.
right? And if I got to make you run uphill and run downhill, and it's just fucking brutal. By the time you get in there to fight, I want you to be like, hey, bro, at least I don't have an hour of conditioning. I only got to do this for 9 minutes. Like, cool.
Hmm.
And so many coaches, I think and that's the biggest thing I learned in Thailand when I first went and I got beat up. They don't have a bunch of magical techniques that we can't teach ourselves, but they can work at a pace that we can't because they're doing 18 sessions a week and we're doing five. So
Hmm.
you have to be brutal and you have to be hard. And the challenge with that is you're going to end up with, like me, Preston, I teach maybe 5 or 6 guys. And you know what I charge?
Hmm.
I charge no money to train people. And I
Really?
train for free. Everybody I've ever trained, I've never taken a dollar from them. I don't want your money. I want the wins. That's what matters to me. So
Hmm.
the problem with that is when I'm that freaking hard on everyone, all the casual, I want to get in shape, they're not looking for that.
I
They want to
see.
go and hit pads and hit the bag and post on Instagram. They went to Muay Thai class and all of that bullshit, which is fine, which is okay. That's just not what I want, right? That's not where my heart's at.
Hmm. A lot of the fighters that you train, I interviewed one, Tariq Wright, and
Yep.
of course, I'm sorry if I butcher his name, Majali Gay.
Yep.
They
No, you
have,
said it right. Good job, dude. Good job.
I was studying, man,
You got it, dude. Good job.
is they have incredible power. I mean, like I was doing research and on both of them, it feels like they just have bombs in their hands. Are you able to train that like as an ad, or is it like just an attribute that you just do or do not have?
No, you're absolutely able to train that. They're inherently fighters. Both of those guys are inherently fighters. I feel I get to take a lot more credit for Majali than I do Tariq.
Hmm.
Tariq, when he came to me, he was already a proven champion. A lot of respect for that dude. He had a lot of talent, right? So Tariq already had his game. My attitude is like I always describe it like if Tariq is a muscle car with 400 horsepower, I'm gonna try to make him a muscle car with 800 horsepower. But the dude was already a muscle car when he came to me. He wasn't a Honda Civic, where when I met Majali, he was very green. He'd never done any Muay Thai before. But I don't like to give away too many of my secrets. You can see on things, but there's a lot of very specific exercises I do that I learned to generate that power. I mean, me and Majali for the first couple years, I think we were together 3 years before we ever fought, but I mean, it was just hours, Preston, of just doing these same techniques over and over. And he was like, he would hate it. He'd be giving me dirty looks and shit and fucking just mad as fuck and like rolling his eyes. And I could see it. And I was just like,
Hmm.
whatever. And I told him one time, I was like, bro, I'll tell you this. I was like, just do what I tell you. I was like, if we go out there and fucking lose or you don't have any power or you get fucking beat up, we'll have a conversation about it. I was like, but do what I tell you. And I go, I'll bet you we're going to go out there and we're going to fucking torch people.
Hmm.
And ever since day one, we went out there and torched people. So I do very specific conditioning, very specific exercise to develop that power. And I do that before I teach them to punch or kick or anything. What good is your punch if you hit like a wussy ass karate guy and you fucking barely don't feel shit, right?
I was gonna ask you. I was doing research on your page, and I wanted
Yeah,
to ask you, what about karate bothers you? I really wanted to know, like,
it doesn't
what?
fucking, I mean, it doesn't work in fucking reality. That's what bothers me. You know what I mean? I mean, here's the thing. I don't have no moral. I mean, I'd rather you do karate than do nothing, right?
Yeah,
The point is I don't know, how would I describe it?
karate teaches a false sense of reality, you would say.
No, I don't even say that because like if you're a karate guy fighting a fucking goofball on the street, yeah, you're gonna fucking tune him up. You're a karate guy.
Hmm.
If you're a fucking karate guy fighting someone who knows what I would say is um a better discipline, right?
Hmm.
Then you're gonna get fucking your ass beat, right? And it's just the nature of it. And it's because they're also fighting by a limited set of boxes, right? I
Oh
got these
yeah,
weird kicks and weird punches. Okay, well, what happens if I grab you and fucking elbow you in the face? Now what? Well,
that
you
is
guys don't
true.
practice that. So, okay, well, I mean, it's like,
It's flawed, and flawed in a lot of ways, you think.
yeah. And I don't want to say inherently flawed from a self-defense perspective. I think it's valuable and I think it could save your ass on the street if you're fighting a drunk guy in the bar, maybe. But a trained karate fighter versus a trained Muay Thai fighter of the same caliber, I'm going to make the argument that the Muay Thai guy has, if you think of a fighter as a toolbox, you have more tools in your toolbox than the karate guy. And that's how I would describe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
It's,
a good way to describe
but
it.
I think it's better than playing video games all day.
Oh
Like for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I grew up, my dad, he always told me, if you like how your coach trains, then you have a bad coach. Like I did sports my whole life, football, you name it. And they were always just like grueling sessions, and I hated my coach because at the end of the day, I'd be drenched in sweat, tired. Do you think that um, making sure that you have a healthy relationship with your fighters and the coach is a essential part of what you're doing?
Outside the ring, yes.
Hmm.
Inside the ring, yes, too, kind of. I need them to love, like, I don't say love me, but I need them to trust me and know that I got their back and know that on fight day I'm going to show up and I'm not going to flake on it. But during training, I could give a fuck if you like me. Like,
Hmm.
to me, if you don't hate me during training, like, I'm not doing my fucking job. Like, I
Hmm.
want you to hate me. I sit around thinking of shit just to fucking make you mad and make it as hard as I fucking possibly can do. Because at the end of the day, I want to be able, if we ever lose, all of my fighters, Tariq, Majali, I won't take as much credit for Tariq, but I mean, he's won a couple belts since he's came to me. But again, that dude had a lot of skills in the toolbox. I'm just adding to it.
Hmm.
But Majali to this day, that dude's never lost a round on his feet. Never lost a round on his feet. He's, you know what I mean?
That's incredible.
Literally incredible. He's 9-1. He lost an MMA fight, but he's never lost a round on his feet, period. And
Hmm.
I think it's um I you got to make the training so fucking brutal. It's like combat in war, right?
Hmm.
You don't get to shoot each other with fucking BB guns and then suddenly magically think you're going to go to machine gun fire and be like, "Oh my God." That's why they try to make it as close to combat as they can without you dying. So I approach Muay Thai in very much the same way. I try to make it as close to a real fight as I can without cutting you or killing you.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't really, to answer your question, I don't really um I want to be a good friend of my guys, but I want to be a good friend of my guys after you do what the fuck I tell you. You know,
Yeah,
I don't want your money. That's a big thing. I don't want anybody's money. So like I want to win. So when we go win,
that's
I
all that
want,
matters.
yeah, it's all that matters to me. I want to know that I did everything possible that I know in my heart to make sure you won.
Hmm.
Here's the thing. Both of you, Joe Rogan said it best. Both of you are going to reach a point in the fight when you're tired. It's like two machine guns shooting at each other. If you have 1,000 rounds and I have 1,500 rounds, and we both have the exact same machine guns, and the machine guns are the skill set, and we're shooting at each other, and you run out of bullets, and I still have bullets, I'm going to win. That's why a
Yeah.
lot of these amateur matches, you can win these bullshit matches on sheer cardio. If you
Hmm.
can throw a jab cross and a right kick, you can beat 70% of the amateurs in California right now if you just have the cardio in the gas tank.
Wow. Yeah,
You know,
cardio is just a essential part of life, I would actually say.
it's an essential part of fighting, that's for sure, dude. Yeah, that's for sure.
I run a lot. I don't know, like running is just an essential part of. I feel like everyone needs to run. It's good for your heart. It's healthy for you.
I
I
want you to
don't.
get a bike, Preston. Save your knees. I want you to get a bicycle, a road bike.
Yeah, I was gonna say my knees are done because I work at a place where I do around like 15,000 steps a day,
Yep.
and then I run when I don't work. So like my knees sometimes are in immense pain. But anyway, what does the daily life of a Muay Thai coach look like for yourself right now?
So I own my own business. So I have a utility engineering company. So a lot of my days are work, but right now we only train maybe 2 days a week with my guys. When we get into fight camp, we bump it up to three or four. But I wish I could do as many sessions as the Thais do. Thais I don't. But if you imagine all these guys we've beaten them maybe doing 3 sessions a week.
Hmm.
My guys are doing other stuff. They're running on their own. They're running, but like one-on-one with me, I really only train my guys 2, 3 days a week just because I'm so busy and I got a family and I got my business to run. But no, we train in the evenings. Like tomorrow we'll train on Saturday. Right now it's just Saturdays and Mondays. But when camp kicks up, we'll kind of add something in. I try to meet one-on-one with them, and that, but it's not too crazy. A lot of my life is sucked up by work right now.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of what makes it doable is I don't train a lot of guys. Like my class tomorrow will be 4 guys. I was at Majali's class who actually opened a beginner's class because so many people were hitting us up, and I'm like, I'm just an asshole. I don't want to teach the beginners. Love them. I appreciate them doing it, but like I'm like, let's weed them through the program. But Majali's actually been teaching a beginner class, and I went down there yesterday just to drop some stuff off at the gym, and this dude had like 18 students in his gym. You know, funny story, Preston. When I first started teaching, I started teaching at a 10th Planet when I went from
Oh,
coaching.
really?
Yeah, I started teaching not jujitsu, but a buddy of mine. I started teaching at a 10th Planet school in Riverside, and day one when I started teaching at school, like 15, 18 people showed up. And then what did we do? We did a fucking hour of conditioning, right? We carried the tire thing, and they're like, fuck, I want to learn the magical elbow 9,000. And I'm like, fuck you, I'm going to train you all as fighters. So an hour of conditioning. So like week two came, and there was like 12 people.
And then week
Just
three?
kept doing it how I do it, bro, right? Week by week, like six, like five people were showing up, right? And
Mhm.
basically by like 8 weeks, it was like Majali would show up. So I'm like, yeah, to hell with this. And they're not bad people. They were there more just for the fitness and the aspect of it. They're all good people and good. I don't mean that as a dog towards them.
Mhm.
They just only wanted that. And I want to train people that only want to fight.
Mhm.
Whether you want to be the champion of the world or not, I don't care. But I want people that want to competitively fight and get after it.
Mhm.
I'll tell you this right now, if we had elbow fights here, I would only allow my people to do elbow fights from the very first fight.
Mhm.
Your very first fight would be no elbow pads and a full fight. Because here's the thing, if it's good enough for 6-year-old girls in Thailand, why isn't it good enough for you?
That is
You either
true.
want to fucking do this or you don't,
Mhm.
right?
I,
And that's
I I totally agree with that. If you're gonna go into the fight game, you have to give it your all. Like you
right.
just can't half-ass anything. Like that's with like sports, you can play I mean, no, you can play basketball, you can play football. You can't play MMA, you can't play Muay Thai, you can't play like you just can't. And if you play it, you're gonna get fucked up.
You're going to get fucked up. And that's why
Yeah.
you end up with these guys that are 3-15 and 2-10 and it's just like wild, dude. And there's nothing wrong with casually wanting to do this as whatever. But,
Hmm.
you know, flag football is much different than real football. It just is.
Yeah, it's much different. I did flag
Much different.
football up until high school, and then I got fucked up for my whole high school.
Yeah.
It was a wake up call because I always was like, I think I'm gonna go to the end. I always had a delusional mind as a kid. I was like, I think I could go Division 1. My first day of practice, I realized I'm not going anywhere. Like that's like the biggest difference. Like when it actually comes to like the contact and everything, that's when you find out like if you're really like going to do really about it, basically.
Yeah. One of my favorite sayings is, the true test is when the punches are coming at you.
Hmm.
It's all cool to hit pads. That's why you get so many of these guys. I mean, they're beautiful on pads. 14 combination shots with like epic, every technique is perfect. They get into a fight and they lock up, right? It's like this dude around your homies, right? You're all talking to him. He's like Mr. Funny Guy and da 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 da. Da. You get him around a cute girl and dude locks up. And you're like, bro, what's up? Why aren't you talking? He's like, you just lock up, right? When it's all cool to be a funny guy, but when the show's on the line, now what's up? And it's the same thing with fighting. It's all cool to hit pads in your nice air-conditioned gym. It's another thing to walk out and potentially embarrass yourself in front of your fans and friends and family. And I
Hmm.
think that's why I'm so hard on them on the gym is like, you know, I want them to know when they went out there that we did absolutely everything we possibly could to win this fight. Like that shit's fucking no mercy. You know what I mean? That's no mercy. This is gonna sound like a complete fucking asshole, but like as long as we're playing within the rule sets, I don't care if we hurt the other guy. I literally don't. I don't care if we break your leg or fucking break your arm. That's called fighting, bro. You don't want to do this, go fucking play basket weaving. The very first guy we ever fought, me and Majali, the kid's mom actually, I don't think only the team knows the story, but the kid's mom came and bitched me out after the fight, dude.
For what?
Because we went in there, right? It was very first fight. We don't lie about our records. He was 0-0. We fought a kid that was 0-0 or 1-0 or whatever. And Majali like torched this fucking kid, right? It was headgear. I mean, kneed him in the face when the kid flying kneed him in the thing. I mean, just smoked this kid, right? Kid went to the hospital after. Literally went to the hospital, right?
Wow.
And his mom comes and finds me in the corner and she's like, "How many fights does your fighter have?" And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "That's his first fight." And she's like, "That was my son's first fight. That was not his first fight." And I was like, yes, ma'am. No, that's not correct. That was his first fight. And she's like, "You're a Samba," and bitched me out, Preston, literally. And like I was like, dude, right after mom left, I was like, I'm a fucking bad man.
That's a
You know what I mean?
compliment. That's a compliment, if
That's a
anything.
compliment. I was like, that's a compliment. Like, lady, I'm sorry. And this kid's like posting on his Instagram story before, ready for war. I'm like, all right,
Oh,
bro. I got this homie. I got Majali up here at 4 in the morning running up fucking mountains. Hopefully you had a bigger mountain than I did.
hopefully you're ready for war.
Hopefully you're ready for war too. But like
Mhm.
so many people, it's like you said in football, they're about it, but are you really, really about it? You know what I mean? Bro, I love when my people take the shin pads off. We take the
Yeah.
shin pads off and I'll kick them and they'll kick me. And like, I want to feel that pain and feel that intensity.
Hmm.
Right. And you got to gravitate towards that pain and you got to love it and you got to fucking feel it, you know? That's what I get back to. Some people got it and some people, they just don't.
Hmm. Well, it was a pleasure having you on today, man. It
No
was honestly
problem.
one of my favorite shows I've ever done. That was I was enter it was hard for me to actually ask you the question because I was actually just so entertained by what you were saying.
Sorry, I couldn't let you get a word in. I like to talk. So
No, I don't need to get a word. I'm interviewing you. You're the
uh,
show today, man. I appreciate everything. Thank you so much.
thank you, Preston. Thanks for having me, man.